Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to explain the architecture behind my recent project called S2Media. So it's a social media website with all the functionalities you would expect from a typical social media website. So I'm going to explain the architecture behind it and how I built it. So let's get started. So I have my front end built with Next.js. So if you are familiar with Next.js, it's a React framework built on top of React actually. So it's pretty nice, and I obviously recommend everyone who's using React to try Next.js. It's wonderful. So I'm using Next.js for my front end. So it becomes obvious that you have to not have to, but it's better that you deploy to Vercel. So I choose to deploy on Vercel. So here's my project on Vercel, and I also just put a custom domain for that. So whenever you go to this particular domain or this, it will redirect and my application will be live. So it's on Versa. And backend, coming to backend, it's pretty much simple, but it has a lot of things going inside, that these things are hidden by Vercel actually. That's why it's pretty famous. So here on the back end, I'm running everything on a virtual private server that's hosted on Linode. So here I have my virtual private server, S2Media. So it's running now, and everything is inside this virtual private server. So let's talk about more about this thing. So the ports. First thing is, whenever the user comes here, whenever the user visits the site by going to this site, and the Vercel server sees the Next.js application, and if there is any API request, then it is gonna go and request from the server. So we have cores enabled so that only these two talk to each other. And then I have a firewall in front of my server actually, that only allows three ports. So one is for HTTPS, for that is 443 default port for HTTPS, and 80 is the default port for HTTP, and 22 for SSH. And then inside of that, after the firewall, I have Nginx server. So what is Nginx? If you don't know what's Nginx, it's a web server. So it's basically, you can think it as it's a web server. It does a lot of things, but here I'm using it as a reverse proxy. So what is a reverse proxy? So reverse proxy, we can take an analogy here. So imagine there are a lot of routes. So like there is some routes, like four different routes, and there is a traffic police in middle. So he decides who to send in which route. So he just directs these people go there and these people go there. So it's kind of like a traffic police here. So on what basis it directs is, if the API request is starting from /API/v1, then it directs to my Express server. And if the API request is to /back, which is the background process, it redirects to background process server and socket server. So both are handled, sockets and background working processes handled by this server. And everything else is in Docker containers, independent Docker containers. So my Express server is in Docker, and background server is in Docker, and my Redis and Postgres are also in a Docker container. So typically that's the flow. So let's just go through the flow again. User comes here and requests, and firewall blocks any malicious requests, and Nginx comes into the play, and it sees if it's a /API/v1, then it goes and uh, uh, forwards the request to my Express server. If it's to /back, it forwards it to background server. And then if Express server needs something to create a document or something like that, it goes and talks to the Postgres. And similarly, if we have any caching, if we need any caching, then Express server is going to go and talk to Redis. So this is how basically everything is structured. I hope you like this video, and in the future I'm gonna chunk apart a few of the technologies, and I'm gonna create some videos on how to do particular things, like setting up an Nginx server on on a virtual private server. So I'm gonna make that, and caching with Redis, and some cool stuff. So make sure you subscribe. See you in the next video.